where in my current life do I feel the future? What small steps can I take towards this?
Hello, supers! Welcome back to Paano ba to? I hope you are all feeling okay. And if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, a bit stressed, or a bit anxious, this is the episode for you. I have clinical psychologist Doc Joanna Herrera. And in case you missed it, we actually had an episode last year with her called How to Thrive in Crisis. One of my favorite Paano ba to episodes this quarantine for sure. So you can visit that. But for today, she will talk about managing our feelings of anxiety and stress. And this is a super helpful episode. So let's get right to it. Yes, welcome back to Paano ba to? Doc Javi. Hello.
Hi, Bianca. We're here again.
I can't believe it's been a year, almost a year since our last conversation like this. Would you have thought last year that a year after we'd still be here?
No, I thought I would be traveling by this time.
Oh
It's
my.
unbelievable, no? It's so surreal.
It's been a year into this global pandemic and the letters have been pouring in about iba na yung level ng anxiety ngayon, a year
Yeah.
after. And I'd like to share lang some letters with you. From Ange, sabi niya, I just want to ask advice on how to stay sane and calm amidst this global pandemic, especially if you're away from your loved ones. From Kirsten, how do I know if I'm having anxiety attacks? Because I think I have, but I'm not sure. And from Marsh, any activity na pwedeng gawin sa bahay to cope up with breakdowns or kaya proper mindset or suggestion para ma-lessen yung anxiety almost every day. So this is a recurring feeling of many people we know, right?
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about that. And I guess you will explain from a psych point of view what we're going through so that we can work through our feelings, I guess. Is that correct?
That's right. It's a very widespread feeling. No? I mean, stress and anxiety have been very prevalent since last year, but I think this prolonged pandemic has really set in a different level of fatigue and stress. So, and Bianca, as I talk about this, I have to share that I'm not in a psychological Shangri-La either. So as I share this, it's, I'm also in touch with my own vulnerability and my own struggles. We are all vulnerable. Not even mental health professionals are protected from the struggle and vulnerability that these times are giving to us. So,
wow. Well, thank you
yeah.
for sharing that, Doc, first of all, because you're right. Just like our healthcare workers in the hospital are not immune, and a lot of them have gotten infected with the virus. No, you as a psychologist, as a mental health professional, hindi ka exempted, kumbaga, sa feeling na ito.
Yes.
And
Yes.
thank you for sharing that. It makes us feel less alone, of course. And what is it that you want to share with us today, Doc?
So I mentioned a while ago that pandemic fatigue has really set in because of this, prolonged and severe stress. And lately, as the COVID cases have been rising here in our country and in other parts of the world, there has been a lot of grief, of loss, no? Perhaps much more than before. And it seems to be getting closer and closer. Like people we know, people who are close to us. The way we see COVID-19 crisis now, it's become a traumatic stressor event. So it's producing experiences and symptoms that are very similar to what we see in post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, the hypervigilance, no, the sometimes numbed we are from our feelings. And this prolonged and severe event also exacerbates mental health conditions. Our nervous system is experiencing tremendous stress, and it's important to know that our experience is a mind-body experience. So we really have to be aware and to take care of ourselves, not just in terms of our psychological well-being, but taking care of our body is also really a big part of that.
I see this chart that you shared with me, and it has very, very interesting phrases: ability to self-soothe,
Yeah.
comfort zone, and this
Oo.
that I always hear, but I have to be honest, I don't fully understand yet: the fight or flight and the freeze.
Yeah, it's a very important map. Knowing our nervous system is really important for us to manage our stress recovery during these times. So it's very normal and natural for us to feel threatened by what's happening around because it's an inheritance. There's a legacy for for our stress response to be activated whenever we feel threatened. So when we can manage our stressors, when there are not a lot of big things happening outside of us or inside of us, we're usually inhabiting our safe zone, our zone of comfort, our zone of connectedness, our calmness. And for the most part of our lives, that's where we want to be. Not that we're always there, but inhabiting our safe zone makes us healthy mentally and physically. But of course, the more stress we have to deal with externally, our stress response gets activated, and that pushes us into our sympathetic zone, our fight or flight. Our nervous system gets aroused, it gets exhausted, and then we have to respond to the stress by trying to avoid it because it's already overwhelming, or by trying to fight it, which means we get angry and irritable much more easily. Very simply, that's what fight or flight looks like.
So fight or flight is yun nga, parang either you ignore it, run away from it, do everything you can para isipin na wala siya dyan, or
Yes.
fight, which is yun nga, with everything you can, you will try to control it even if hindi siya controllable. What is freeze? The freeze zone, Doc.
So sometimes when we are staying in the sympathetic nervous system for a long time, it can exhaust and deplete us. Beyond the sympathetic nervous system, we can get into our freeze zone, which is parang sobrang pagod, sobrang exhaustion. It's like, we just begin to avoid it, to space out, to feel indifferent, apathetic, to feel numb, to burn out. Being in the sympathetic zone takes a lot of energy. That's where adrenaline pours in, our cortisol pours in, yung stress hormones, and we can only maintain that for a certain period of time. So pag hindi tayo naka-recover doon, we end up going to our free zone. And that's the point where we become more likely there's more risk for depression.
But like you said, ideally, dito tayo sa sort of like the flourish zone.
The flourish, the safe, connected, grounded, calm zone. It has become harder for us to live in that zone with, these challenges we're having right now.
Doc, you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to ask about. You said the many things going on outside, but also, and I guess more so, what's going on inside. And you have this beautiful quote that you shared with me here. Can you share it with everyone?
There's this class I'm attending now. It's the InRp, and one of the teachers is Jeremy Hunter, and he said something that I caught and I really love. Sabi niya, what's going on inside of you affects how you perceive what's outside and the choices you think you have. So it's not just what's happening to us externally. Actually, what matters more is, the state that we cultivate within ourselves. And so if we let a negativity and fear-based reality inhabit our lives and our minds, really, well, not just mentally, but physiologically, it creates kind of this a sense of limitedness. It really creates a tunnel vision, and even our sensory perception becomes very narrow. The aperture of our lens really kind of narrows, constricts, and limits. So our sense of possibility begins to diminish. And that's where we want to become intentional, because there are paths to resilience. We don't necessarily have to be taken over by our sympathetic zone or our free zone. We can always, bring ourselves back to the zone of safety, of flourishing, of connection.
Okay, I love that. The sort of tools to resilience. And although we don't want to glorify, romanticize resilience, we deserve to be cared for by those in charge. However, developing resilience is, I guess, really for everyone's own good. And so you wanted to share a few practical things that we can do whenever, because a lot of the letters earlier were like, how do I know when I'm like gonna have an attack, or like I'm feeling so overwhelmed and parang I just want a practice to do to sort of help me calm down. What can you share with us, Doc?
First of all, thank you for saying we don't want to glorify resilience. Resilience in the sense that we're just forcing ourselves to toughen up, or to think that we can't have moments of, just really needing help and caring for ourselves. So it's really more about practicing stress recovery and practicing care for ourselves. So here are three important factors. I think the factors also determine the practices that are important to stress recovery. And these three factors are awareness, mindset, which I think came up in the question a while ago. What mindset can I take on, in order not to be taken over by what's happening outside? And the third is practice. So awareness, mindset, and practice. Awareness is pausing to be present to ourselves with kindness and accepting wherever we find ourselves in. That pausing is important because we can't course correct unless we become aware of our location. So it's important to locate ourselves with kindness and curiosity. We need to know where our body is at. Usually, stress is really felt in the body, those aches and pains, the tightness, and being really present to that. I heard of this new word recently. It's presencing, being present and sensing. I think we need to practice that.
Presencing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Presencing. Okay, I like that term.
Practicing that with ourselves, we can try to stop and take a moment to just sense, what is happening in my body. Like, are there areas of tightness, areas of pain, areas of soreness that I need to attend to or pay attention to? And then sensing our emotions. What am I feeling? So not pushing it away, but kind of really embracing where we are, our fear, our anxiety, our anger, our sadness, and also be present to our thoughts. Like, what scripts are going on in my head? What's the inner dialogue that's playing out? That's awareness. Mindset is an important factor to stress recovery. Trying to overcome negativity bias, because sometimes, when we're afraid, that becomes the default pattern. So it's nice to practice gratitude. It's the mindset of possibility. I love this question. I just heard it recently and I love it. Where in my current life do I feel the future? So instead of getting stuck with, gosh, it's kind of a never-ending state of fear with this pandemic, it's like, where in my current life do I feel the future? What small steps can I take towards this? So this is the RAIN practice. It's actually a practice that's been popularized by Tara Brach, a spiritual teacher, a mindfulness teacher, and also a clinical psychologist. And so it's just a way for us to take a U-turn and to say yes to life. RAIN is a beautiful practice that's not only awareness, it also takes us to practice. It stands for recognizing where we are, and that's where awareness comes in. A stands for allowing and accept for whatever is there to be there. I think it's a mindset of letting be instead of resisting. And resistance creates a lot more struggle and pain. But when we allow and accept what's there to be there, it's like it's saying yes to where we are. I stands for investigating, and this is being curious, suspending judgment, just investigating what's really difficult for me in this situation. How am I feeling vulnerable? What about this situation is making me feel vulnerable? And it's the practice of nurturing. What part of me is needing to feel protected, comforted, and how can I do that for myself in a very concrete way?
Thanks so much, Doc. Super. I mean, I always love learning from you, and you have so graciously volunteered to share something very doable for everyone at home. Not needing anything special to sort of like ground ourselves when we feel overwhelmed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this, Bianca. This has been so helpful to so many people. Thank you for doing the work you do.
Oh my goodness, no, I have to thank you and the many, many other experts who so generously share your wisdom, your practices to help a lot of people. I am only the medium, so I really am truly grateful to you for your time. Thank you, Doc.
You're very welcome.
I hope that episode was helpful for you. And actually, si Doc Joanna, she is the co-founder of We Thrive Inc. And you should check out their Facebook page because every Monday, they have a free Mindful Mondays practice on Facebook Live. So do check that out. And while you're on Facebook, please do join us supers sa Paano Ba To Kumustahan group. If you want to talk about anything, open up any issues, that is our safe space. And if nabitin kayo sa episode na to, again, as usual, the full episode will be up on Paano Ba To, the podcast. Now a Spotify exclusive. She will take us through actually a guided practice in the podcast version that you can just listen to, close your eyes when you wake up or when you're about to sleep. Again, super helpful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, supers. Isn't such a super time now, but I hope through videos like this, we sort of help each other get through things. And till the next episode, take care.